Part 3 of jubileezinevella audio video book. It's 10:16 p.m. on 02/02/2020. When she was young, she had read about Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee, and the phrase had latched onto her. It sparkled with hope. And the movement had been rising around her without her, though she had heard murmurs, Occupy reverb. She remembered the local activists of her teenhood, WTO Seattle, Julia Butterfly Hill, Tree Arrow. She wondered how they felt about Jubilee and imagined them being at the Desert Festi, maybe giving a workshop. Maybe they would cross paths. She knew she could do it alone and that she had made up this cash quest personal grail. She had a feeling that there were others being drawn to a similar undercurrent, but she wasn't sure. She hadn't looked too deep on the internet. The geocache community wasn't abuzz with it, at least. She knew that Burning Man was behaving in apocalyptic ways like tempting fate. The man had gotten so large. Elon was rumored to be adding rockets to it or whatever, being bombastic, set up like a Tesla coil. Quivering lines of electric energy shimmering in the distance, arcing into the sky, maybe a rocket to Mars. Grimes was lavish with a large smile on all the promo and build-out pics. Neon steampunk, violently highly present, building a biodome for her Sunday set and their stump speeches. No one could tell if they were really running for president or just joking. None of the laws said they could, but people were eating popcorn and watching if they would win a write-in campaign or something. Representative government seemed extra, very fragile and volatile, and anything could happen. Burning Man was a hotbed, pretending it was a party, and she didn't think she could stand it except unless for the gorgeous alien-loping luminescence, increasing activation, and ever more resident and generous salt flats. Humming and brimming, the water tucked in its pockets, she felt it must be there. Rumor has it that maybe Grimes and Elon are pushing to secede the West Coast and create a new country called Cascadia. Rumor has it that they will be collecting signatures for a referendum and schmoozing with investors in their new nation state. Bombo, eco-fascist, ego-fascist. Lots of freedom promises devoid of accountability. Planted daydreams of following plant roots down or finding a cave opening, always the glowing. Plan to remember all the most interesting things she hoped to do and see and transform into, like 3D glasses or magic eye, her mind and memory. No plans for a fixed camp, but she had a wagon, a map, and a book. Or she found the book out on the open playa on her way in, written in a font she trusted, printed on cloth and the edges sewn with rainbow gradient embroidery thread, stitched with love. She thought she could feel it glowing. She tumbled into herself and felt meaningless and hopeless on the edge of her inner abyss, staring down into a black hole and inside herself. Should she jump, and could she even? She felt unsure and corrupt, like a corrupt file lacking access and the ability to be accessed, but also not deserving it, dangerous. And the embroidered book said the first step was accountability. Start with the good news or the bad news, or blend them, but make sure you have at the end a good sense of both. Write a list of all your favorite memories and how you plan to cherish them. Manufacture your memory palace, but don't forget the infrastructure, all the things you regret and the debts you owe. This part might remind you of AA, the embroidered book said to her. She found it written faintly in the margin, and she felt like it was a note written to her. Walk around inside your life story like a geocache. That's how she read it. She sat down in the desert and made a list, folded it into a funny shape. Layers of triangles, semi-symmetrical. Time braids flowing, flower of life lilacs. She bought a lilac bush and a strawberry patch in her wagon. Blackberry brambles also. A small and fragrant garden she pulled behind her over the salt flats through the Festi. The way they sought water was hopeful to her. Roots dowsing down. Well water, she said to herself. Well water, well water. She wandered. Seeking a scenic property in its repetition, it shed its meaning and floated free. The strings of letters bear shapes now. She wasn't ready to turn inward and write the story of herself. She circled around it a few times, but couldn't face it. Her mind caught on an idea to build witchy snow globes full of found crystals. Etsy idea. Wherever you go, she remembered, there you are. She remembered crying at the temple, so much crying at the temple, dehydrated already, offering her body salts to the salt flats. She feels she is getting closer. The glowing party on the horizon is glowing brighter in the distance. On her phone, emails can't decide whether they are read or unread, the blue indication toggling on and off seemingly randomly. Something isn't catching, she said to herself. Her geolocation tag always at least 500 feet off these days, hovering fuzzily around her. She remembered from the late OOs her dream of the future where Burning Man was lush and grassy, and there was internet access, luminous groves and waves. Feeling illegibly conglomerate, like gorgeous, like plywood. Or rippling like snakes, deep unsurfaced, slow motion videos of lava, various sandworms. Text message, of course, hits her phone out of nowhere. In her mind, there is still no satellite service on the salt flats. She falls back into her too vivid dream from those OOs, where there was satellite service on a version of the salt flats that also had streams and more shade. How outlandish and also inevitable the satellite service specifically had felt. In the 2020 now, she felt resigned. Her phone bubble showed its message, bounced down from above, from anywhere. It was that too handsome boy from a few years ago, the one with the one-way crush, messaging her again as he did every 6 months. Usually mundane how you doings from far away, but this time hyper-specific and strangely near. I got an extra ticket to Burning Man. Wanna come? Meet me in Elon Musk's Eco-Cybertopia camp. She is caught by surprise in the synchronicity, unsurprised somehow he's found a place in the Tesla camp amongst the wealthy that made her feel most uneasy, the VIPs that felt the most like supervillains. Whoa, how? She had been ignoring his polite Facebook Messenger passages at her for years. A text this time, maybe his old phone with a number in it had come back to life or something. She felt derailed, or momentarily held by the train's dispatcher, resigned to her fate for a moment, like jostled just to check how she would approach what this type of fate had in store for her. She stroked her 5 chin hairs deliberately. She stroked her 5 chin hairs absent-mindedly, or vice versa. May as well end up there eventually, potentially, she thought, and she texted back, see you there. She felt distracted, and very definitely maybe, though she couldn't remember if it was maybe Dishwalla or Jacob Dylan's band who named their album that in like 1996. She wanted to think about Jubilee. She was happy that was the theme. Hoped Jubilee would begin to activate out there for realsies. She had been thinking about Jubilee since her childhood, but it had reemerged in her vibe space so strongly these past few years. Maybe it was because her phone was in her hand that she felt like it, but she clicked on out of her texts and onto the blog post she had up on her mommy blog from 2017 to remember what she had been thinking about Jubilee, proof of concept. And they read, notes on Jubilee. It's like, make sure there's a lot of breathing room, editor's letter, empty space. Off with their bank accounts. Plug and play, bad idea camp. Corral Cocoonu Tropics. Invisible second festi with roots in Indiana Jones' Kingdom of the Crystal Coals cosmology. Cosplay, pet play, soul play, cold play, conjuring, spontaneous regeneration. Sit with the strange memories that stick to you like. Notice when they surface and how they make you feel. Clean eating, clean living, reading Timothy Leary. Jubilee like a molting cosmic brain meme. How does it feel like to let forever be? Karaoke and lip syncing. Off the grid or below the grid, more undercommons. Infrastructure is invisible and important. A new board of critical discourse. Cheese plate. Flight. Something akin to nationalization, and that is a commandeering, repurpose, redistribution. In a friendly font. Could you hear my back crack? Not burning girl, but curing girl. Heaven in a cistern, heaven in a cistern. The lake bed only seems dry. Up high, it's dry, and people are burning things. Down below, it's heaven, but only for those who truly, madly, deeply let go of all their possessions, including offshore funds and other hidden funds and resources. Truly, madly, deeply do leave your belongings behind. A bioluminescent natural system. The water knows, funds you if you don't deserve it. The poor girl's pure pool of pure heaven. Healing girl, Venus in Pisces. High drama in the stars. Carving girl, leathers cross the street. Ooh, out the window in a downpour. Interlude vision sequence. Reenact old memories that casually haunt you. Camp. Will I ever be able to stop using this melody? Shannon's pager in the parking lot puddle on a rainy night. 2 blocks from here, in a Depression Valley slope, reprieve. Hesitate respectfully, hover over the glowing cistern. Don't yet dip your toe in, but no, you're going to. Live fully in the pause, rotate the bottle of wine 360 degrees in the rendering program of your imagination. Or just maybe matrix dip if you're feeling kinetic. Teenage keyboard hustle. 100 words per minute interlude, overheard beyond their urgent whispers. He said, face your fears, and I faced the sound of him saying it. Felt seen and supported, wrote a poem about it and including it. And here I am again, leaning over that July cliffside, pausing long. The frosted glass butterfly shoplifted me, dangling from my rear view mirror in 1999 in Seaside. Memory castle through a deep peephole. She's floating in an open field.